Here for.
Okay. Are you ready?
Okay, yeah, let's get going.
Okay.
And again, why don't you say who you notified you that won't be here today?
Yes, so Mayor Keepler will not be here and Commissioner Anderson have let me know that they will not make it today. So I think we have everyone else. So Mayor Kiewit, can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
And it's my understanding Bob will be joining us, but a little late.
I'll play the role of Bob until he shows up.
All right, perfect.
Okay, let's get going.
All right, we'll start off with the approval of the minutes from the 31st. Any issues or comments on the minutes from the 31st?
Yes, anybody have comments from the notes?
Perfect.
If not, can we have a consensus that they're good to go?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm good. Catherine?
Yes, totally
Okay.
fine.
All right, so they're good to go.
All right, thank you. Now to the previous action items, we did follow up with ODOT on the BO. They are running a little bit behind. They are anticipating having it at the end of November. And I'll update this to reflect that it's in the other piece. They are working on the Abernathy Bridge, which is an active project that's under construction. So that is taking time away from them working on this one. So we are continuing to follow up with them. They're saying it's going to be, the draft will be the end of November. They have not indicated that that will impact the final approval yet.
And we asked them.
We have asked and they
Okay.
say that they're theoretically still on schedule. So we will continue to ask and follow up.
Okay.
The recommendation on the appointees to the Bi-State Bridge Commission, I understand that each county is working on putting together what that will look like. So I think that's moving forward, or at least I know it is on Hood River County. Clickitat County, I am not as clear on whether they are moving that forward.
Catherine, do you know anything about that on the Washington side?
I do not.
Okay, what we're gonna do right after this meeting, on the Oregon side, we've been messing around with a 3-page draft. And we've met for a couple of hours on it. I'll send that draft out as it stands today to all the members on the Washington side. Again, this was drafted for Oregon, but it would be pretty easy to modify for Washington or change it, do whatever you want to with it. But it's a place to start. So
That would be great. Yeah, because
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of assumed that Jacob was taking that on, but I haven't seen anything. So it might be good to use your template.
Okay, all right.
All right. The CFA, so just a few minutes on this. The third draft of the CFA was sent out on Friday. I just wanted to make sure everyone did receive that and it went through email okay. There should have been a clean version, a red line version that compared version 2 with version 3.
I have not looked at it yet.
Okay, but you
I
did receive it?
Receive email.
Okay,
I haven't opened it.
Okay.
And did that go to, like our city or county administrators and their attorneys or?
I right now have only sent it out to the Bi-State Working Group
Okay,
members. I did
great.
not send it to anyone else. So if there's others that you would like for me to forward it to, I can do that. Or if you want to forward it. But right now it just went to the Bi-State Working Group members,
I did also send it
the
to.
county, yeah.
One of the Hood River County administrators that requested that.
So Heidi, who is the county, not recorder, what do they call it? County clerk, thank you. So she requested it because I put it on the agenda for a meeting on a week, or meeting on next Monday. So we'll be discussing that, but she doesn't have this, though.
I don't
I
remember.
sent it to you.
No, but you didn't send it to Heidi, though. Heidi,
Oh, no, I did not.
okay, so Heidi, so we kind of have the wrong document, but we'll figure it out.
You needed the commission appointment.
I think that's what people are gonna be more interested in.
You got the whole CFA.
Right.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
But it's okay, it should be in the record anyway, so it's good, we'll discuss it.
Okay.
We're all off at a conference starting tomorrow, so I'll be back on Friday and I'll sort things out then and figure it out before Monday. There's not gonna be a lot of advanced work on this because we're all busy at a conference.
Sure. I mean, at some point, I think that, and I talked to Commissioner Fox about this, is that, you know, the bi-state working group, obviously, the members here go back and talk to some of your boards, but it's unclear how thoroughly they understand what the CFA is about. And
Right.
so as we move forward, and I don't want to steal your.
No, good. We're
Let's
just good.
finish
We're-
up here. So, you know, as we start coming into the end of the year, beginning of next year, to what degree do each of the 6 agencies need the resources of the project to come to your meetings, your individual meetings, to fully communicate the CFA so that you and your board feels like they understand the document?
So is at the discretion of each board member as to whether they feel that they need to get involved more or whether they trust their delegate to it. So, you know, Bob and I have been presenting on a regular basis and no one has expressed the need to go into it further, but each of them would individually decide that we're all independently elected and responsible for ourselves.
So what we're talking about here is that if you wanted to, like the city or Catherine, if you wanted it, we could have perhaps Bob and Siegel and maybe even Kevin, who are kind of the authors of this thing, attend one of your meetings to either present or be there to respond to any questions that you may have on the document. I think we could make arrangements for that. One caution, please, read this version because it has changed and there's a couple of issues in there that have pretty big ramifications of us going forward. And the big one that I see, there's a couple in there, but the big one I see is that as the way it's proposed, no public official could be on the new commission. Publicly elected official, like the 3 of us could not be on this new commission. Some people may think that's a good idea. Some may think that's a real bad idea.
But you were
That-
going to,
Commissioner Fox, Steve Siegel, it does not say that. So I'm not quite sure what you're looking at. Right now.
Steve, you're breaking up.
I'm sorry, I'll try again here. Right now, elected officials could be on the board.
So I'll summarize it for him. Right now, the way it's written is they could be on it, but there is a footnote that there was a proposed language change.
Yes.
That would prevent that.
That is
this was
So-
proposed by the port's attorney, right?
Correct.
And you were going to seek an explanation for whether
Yes.
this was a policy proposal or a legal proposal?
That's still outstanding.
Right,
So
great. I'll wait that.
Yeah, I'd like to get the answer to that first.
We asked that a couple months ago.
Oh, no answer yet. Okay.
No, a couple months ago, this issue was raised with Steve and at that time it was judged that we could
So-
be on it.
Just,
It's
just,
not a legal issue. It's more of a policy issue, but we have not specifically asked the port lawyers of that.
right, and just to be 100% clear, attorneys for public agencies frequently, they deal with a lot of public agencies. They've got a lot of knowledge of what tends to work and what doesn't tend to work. And then they have legal knowledge because they're lawyers. And sometimes when you're getting advice from them, you're not sure which you're getting.
Yeah.
And I'm much more comfortable potentially overriding a policy recommendation than I am a legal
Well,
recommendation.
definitely.
And I want to just know which it is to know where to go.
Yeah. And I don't think I got that. I mean, I got the packet twice, but I don't think I got the CFA. You said it
Okay.
was sent Friday?
It was,
yeah, came out on Friday. I'll double check that you have that. I'll make sure you get it.
Okay, all right,
I got it, and I see that you're on there, Kate.
okay.
I don't remember what time it was that I sent it.
What time was it? Do you see it,
11:10
Catherine?
a.m. on November 11th.
This is on Friday.
Okay,
And I may need to I can break it into individual
I have it here
pieces
too.
because sometimes that happens where your inbox has a
I
limit.
thought the really effective one was the red line, so you
Yeah,
can see
you
the
can really see
changes.
the differences. So there is one other item related to the Bi-State Bridge Commission that we wanted to bring to the group, and that is one of the things that's required by legislation is to name the group, this new group, a new entity. In the CFA right now, it is the Mid-Columbia Bridge Commission. Do I have that correct?
I think that's what Bob.
Um,
Eli
and-
discussed with one meeting many months ago.
What we would like to do is bring that to the group for discussion and potentially approval of that name, because that is one of the legislative requirements is to name the commission, and it needs to, and it will be there forever.
Right.
Well, theoretically, right? Forever. So it sounds silly, but it is something we need everyone to agree to and say, yes, I don't have a preference of what you name it, but
Did you guys talk about how does that relate to Bridge of the Gods?
I was not in the conversation, so I don't know.
Steve, you remember, I think that might have been brought up in passing,
Yeah,
but,
so far, there's nothing in the commission formation agreement that speaks to the Bridge of the Gods at all. If the Bridge of the
I think
Gods,
there was,
The issue is calling it Mid-Columbia.
It's a little presumptuous.
Yeah,
I mean,
Just
an
like calling it a
alternative
river
is.
bridge is presumptuous, right? There,
Yeah.
you want to be careful that you're properly representing
yeah.
who's
we can
being
call it the
served.
real
And,
Mid-Columbia.
you know, this is the commission name. It might not be what people call the bridge.
That's correct. This is
necessarily.
not, that's clearly a different, this is not what the bridge will be called. This is purely the commission's name. It could, I
Right.
guess it could be
It
by
could be
state
the
bridge.
same though. I
Commission.
mean, it could.
Yeah.
You call it the sandbar, then you try and figure out what name people want and they want the sandbar. As you know, Arthur.
What they're referring to was
Yeah.
I pointed out that we had very uncreative names. Our place where we have events is called the event site, and our Marina Beach is called Marina Beach, and the sandbar, people are calling the sandbar. So I held a contest for people to recommend a name, and people submitted
Cape Out
things. and
Sandbar.
we voted on for several months, and it wound up being the sandbar.
Yeah,
Does anybody have any objections to the Mid-Columbia?
Bridge Commission.
Let's not do this now. I mean, I probably do, but let's not do it now.
Okay.
well, we could
When do we
discuss
wanna
this
do
for
it?
a long time.
Yeah, we can discuss it. I don't
But we
know,
should
but I
do
can't
it-
imagine this is holding us up.
Well, it does, in order for the CFA to be finalized, this
I
is
know.
something that has to
I
be
know,
done.
but we haven't even brought it before our board. So number one is our boards are going to review it, and that's going to be a policy review, and then there's going to be a legal review, and then we're ready to go. And by then we should
And
have a
when do
name.
you, I
Okay,
guess, when do you assume all that other stuff will be ready? Because we
We
should
would-
have the name by whenever that time is.
we would like to have it done by January.
Oh, okay. So
That-
within
that's the
next 6
goal,
weeks, we need
is
to
that
decide.
We have a
January.
policy decision, policy discussion on Monday, but I specifically did not request a position for action. So, you know, we just like you, we have our work session,
Right,
our
and
regular
then
meeting,
action
so
later.
we have a work session item. We are not scheduled for any action on this
But
in
you-
our
But
in our December meeting. I'm sorry, November meeting.
you hopefully will
That
do
is
some action
action
in
in
December
December.
to get
That's
it
the hope.
done by January.
That would be our hope. That's our
Okay.
intent.
All right.
Yes, so the way the CFA is written, correct me if I'm wrong, assuming that it gets approved, nominations are selected in January and the board is named in January. They shadow the bi-state working group until July 1st, and then they take over.
But if it didn't happen until February, the world wouldn't
We
stop.
just changed the.
Just change the words in it. Yeah, we simply want to get it done in December because we have 3 of the 5 people leaving our commission between the December and the January meeting, and then we have to get everyone else up to speed again, and it's more people who are
That
learning.
makes
the
sense.
ropes. So it's easier for us to try to get it done in December, but if there's a significant problem, we won't get it and we'll have to delay it.
Well, we have a meeting this evening and then 2 more before the end of the year. So we might need you to come and talk to the group about the CFA.
Okay.
But I will bring it up tonight at council call and talk to our city manager this afternoon about it.
Is
And-
anybody
and-
available to come talk to we have a council meeting tomorrow. I'll plan on,
What time?
it's at 7 o'clock. And we have a Zoom, component you
If,
can join virtually.
Mayor, I could certainly be there. Is there a Zoom?
She said there was, yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yeah.
So,
Join
I can be there.
remotely, and I
Okay.
can send
So-
you the link.
and that would be great. And will your full council, will they have received the commission information agreement?
No, I can send it to them today, though.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and I can be there also.
Okay. I'll send you
Great.
guys
I'll
both that
follow up with
information.
you, Mayor, and just I'll follow up with you, Mayor, and copy Mike, and we'll get there one way or the other.
Okay, that would be great because December our meetings are really full.
Okay. And I can be there in person if you would prefer us to be there in person.
What's your
Okay.
preference?
Either one's fine. You guys are welcome. If it's convenient for you, it's great, and if not, we've got a good setup so we can video chat with you.
Okay,
Let's go there in person.
I'd rather, yeah.
So we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
You driving all the way over there?
We'll carpool.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Hopefully you're not coming home with me.
Okay,
If
and
it's
we'll
me,
reach
I'll show
out,
up.
can, Mike, can you reach out to Commissioner Jacob and Mayor Marla to try and do the same thing? And I'll reach out with them as well, but let's get them both ways.
Okay.
Okay,
The DC trip, Hal's on. Hal, do you want to do a 2-minute update on the DC? Everybody looks frozen. Everybody is frozen.
Sure, thanks, Michael.
Okay.
This is Hal. Thank you for giving me a couple of minutes today. I've been in touch with Michael and Michael Shannon and Mike Fox, and the three of us have held a conference call about strategies and what kind of talking points we want to emphasize in December. But we've got the schedule pretty much put together. We'll be meeting with all the congressional staff and members who are relevant, including Senators Murray and Cantwell and Wyden and Merkley. And then we will also be meeting with Representatives Newhouse. And because Jamie Herrera Butler is losing her position and doesn't even have a physical office anymore, we won't be meeting with her. And of course, Marie Glusenkamp Perez, who won her seat, won't be installed yet in December. So that will be a miss there. But we'll reach out to Marie Glusenkamp Perez as soon as she has staff, and we'll start setting up conversations there. We'll also be meeting with USDOT in a couple of different meetings. One is a continued conversation with the Build America Bureau, which is the bureau that really focuses on the TIFIA loan program and putting together TIFIA loans for big projects around the country. We've had a number of conversations with them, and we'll have another one and talk about where we are with applying for a TIFIA loan. And then we will also be meeting with a number of individuals in the Office of the Secretary, because it is really the Office of the Secretary that is running the different discretionary grant programs that we've applied for. The rural program, the infra program, the mega program, as well as the bridge discretionary program. And we don't know the answers yet on our pending rural, mega, or bridge discretionary grant proposals, but we do anticipate that at least the rural and mega announcements will be made by December, the first week in December, when the delegation comes out. So we may have a really happy meeting with them to celebrate a successful grant proposal, or we may have a debrief meeting with them to ask how we can make our proposals stronger the next time around, because there will be new opportunities in 2023. I don't anticipate that they will make the bridge discretionary grant proposals before the end of the year. And so they won't really want to talk about that because we'll be pending still. But we'll talk about what we can talk about with them, and either get tips on how to strengthen our proposal for the next round, or talk about how we can get the money moving if we're successful in a discretionary grant request. So that's a very quick summary of the meetings. Pleased to see that the congressional delegation's anxious to have another update and conversation. Of course, many of them were represented, all of them were represented in August when we did the staff briefing for many of them in Hood River and in White Salmon. But they want to know where things are now, 4 or 5 months later, and we'll be able to tell them. So thanks. Any
Hey,
questions?
Mike, I know you're putting together a couple slides. How are you coming on that?
We've got a draft outline of the 4 topics that we want to present.
Okay.
I think that was the items were in the packet as one of the agenda items in the actual packet.
So I'm gone starting Wednesday and I won't be back until around the 1st.
Okay,
But
we'll have a
but
draft.
send
by
it
then.
to me
Okay.
in the meantime, just to the email, and I can pull it down.
Hi, Hal, this is Kevin. Can you comment as to the raise program? Is that coming out soon? And if
November.
so, what's the cap or the nature of those funding opportunities?
Good question, Kevin. Yes, we anticipate that the next round of raise funding will be announced by the end of November. And typically USDOT has a 60 to 90 day turnaround. Because this is a pretty familiar program, my guess is it'll probably be a 60-day turnaround. So the application deadline would be due probably, the end of January, beginning of February sometime. In the past, the maximum amount that has been awarded had been 25 million, but in the immediately finished raise cycle, which was announced earlier this year, they actually increased that maximum to 35 million. So I anticipate that this round of raise grants will also be in that 25 to $35 million range. And it's pretty flexible what you can spend that money on. A lot of the money tends to go to bike ped, alternative kind of transportation, like transit-oriented development projects or transit-related projects, or bicycle pedestrian infrastructure projects, but not all of it. Some of it goes to bridge, some of it goes to highway construction projects. And I think if we put together a raise proposal that really emphasizes the bicycle pedestrian elements of the new bridge and why that is so important for everything from bike ped access to kind of social equity issues with the Native American tribes and others who might not be able to use the bridge now because they don't have their own vehicles. I think we can put together a strong proposal and make a real good pitch. And so I would encourage us to think significantly and put effort into doing so.
And Hal, it's my understanding half that money typically goes to rural.
Yes, in the past, during the Trump days and also in the first round of Biden administration grant proposals, they put 50% into rural and 50% into urban. So I would be surprised if they don't continue that pattern. They don't have to do that by statute, but that is the pattern. And my guess is it'll be similar. And that's good for us.
Do we know what the total amount would be? If you say 25 to 35 million is the most, how many of those are there going to be out there?
Last year's raise round was about $1 billion. And I would assume that this year's raise round will be similar in funding. So we're talking about probably about 450 million to maybe 500 million for each of those urban and rural categories. So, 25 to 35 billion divided into 500 million actually doesn't go that far. It sounds like a lot of money, but it starts to only be,
40 of them.
30 or 40 projects. But still, I think we've got a good story to tell, and we haven't actually applied for a raise grant in some time. So
And-
I think it's high time to do it.
Hey, Hal, how much does it matter doing a request from multiple sources, a joint request, I guess I would say? And what I'm thinking is if it was Bike Ped, either each side of the river does one and we do the connections from like Benjamin White Salmon to the bridge. And then on this side, do the connections from the federal trail and Hood River back to the bridge. As potential
Mhm.
raise grants.
It's
the
that's
issue
an
there
interesting
is
question. It may be a bit too clever, but but it's an interesting question, and it is one that we can specifically ask the Office of the Secretary in December when we meet with them, because we'll be within the period that they can actually give advice and direction. And we can very specifically ask that question, whether it would be a stronger proposal if it comes in as a joint proposal from the port and Klickitat County, as we've been doing with our grant proposals, or whether we should put in two different proposals, $25 million each, and try to come up with 50 between the two. It's a good question, and I think we've got the perfect opportunity to pose it to the Office of the Secretary.
Okay.
Good. Well, I'm pleased. The delegation was very willing to meet again and very anxious to meet. So that's good. I think we've made good headway with them. It's definitely on their radar screen. And these meetings, while they're time consuming and not inexpensive, I think they're really critical to keeping it on everyone's radar and making sure that we actually are able to move the project forward on these discretionary grants. And then one of the other bits of interesting news from a federal perspective, of course, is that by the Democrats holding the Senate, that means that Patty Murray will now be the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee for the next 2 years. And that can only be good news for us, because as the senior member on appropriations, if we want to go forward with any kind of appropriation requests, she would already be well aware of our project. The one point of caution there is that appropriation earmarks tend to be on the smaller side these days. A $2 or $3 million earmark, a $4 million earmark is considered a pretty significant earmark within the transportation appropriations bill. So we're not going to get the bridge built with an earmark, but it could be helpful for a specific element that we can carve out specific to completing some element of the overall project.
I'm just wondering, since we're gonna be meeting with Representative Blumauer, does it make sense that we kind of twist that particular topic around to really go after this other grant for the pedestrian bicycle path and somehow get him to kind of help us? Because he's so into bicycles and
He really is very into bicycle pedestrian projects, and I think we definitely want to continue to emphasize that element of the project when we talk with him. I'm quite confident that he'll sign a letter of support, but he also represents Portland, and there are always dozens of bicycle pedestrian projects that are coming at him from the rest of his constituency. So I don't think this would necessarily be at the top of his list when it comes to bike ped projects. On the other hand, he's very excited about his district being expanded into Hood River County. And he's very enthusiastic about representing Hood River. So I think he will want to do what he can to deliver some success there. And my impression has been that the district hasn't received the same level of congressional support since Representative Benz began to represent the district, because he just, he's not there, he's not from Hood River, and he doesn't have the same kind of understanding of the project that, say, Greg Walden did. And so, Blumenauer's been to Hood River a number of times, and he's very enthusiastic, and I think we can play that to our advantage.
Okay.
So Hal, I personally gave Representative Blumenauer a tour of the Mitchell Point Tunnel, which is part of the Columbia River Highway project.
Sure.
He's very bullish on that project. Mentioned the bridge to him, talked to him about it a little bit. I know that it is a big deal to him that this trail runs the length of his district. And talking about the connection of that trail to the bridge and across the bridge, but also talking about the ability for regular people to be able to commute on a regular basis where there's no opportunity at all now. That's kind of special. That's not just another bike trail to him. The Tillicum crossing, this is a good example of the sort of thing that he really gets into. So I think that there's a good possibility there. And I know that Secretary Buttigieg has been personally briefed on, or directly briefed, not by me, but by someone else, on the Mitchell Point project also. So he actually does know what that is, which is, I think, also to our benefit to at least connect the two as being somehow related. And I think that's to our benefit, unless they're going to say, well, we gave you all that money for that. So, so maybe you don't get any more. I don't know.
No, I think that's a really good point, Arthur, and one that I hadn't really thought about making that connection so clearly. And Blumenauer and DeFazio had been big supporters of that project at the DeFazio event that Blumenauer and Buttigieg were at, where they were unveiling his official congressional portrait as a former chairman of the House Transportation Committee. Both Blumenauer and DeFazio mention the Columbia River Gorge bike trail. So I know that Buttigieg got the message in person because I saw it happen. But I think that's a really good idea, because one of the things that Blumenauer has been really interested in is building bicycle pedestrian systems, not just bike trails that go from here to there, but not necessarily connect everything. He sees the bike ped system as kind of a mirror of the this sounds a bit grandiose, but a mirror of the interstate system, in the way that we had some really great highways, but until they built the interstate system, they didn't necessarily connect. And so now, after the last 25 years, we've been building a lot of bicycle pedestrian facilities, but now is the time to really start to connect them into a system so we can build on that point.
And I have to say, this is a little bit embarrassing. When I had a chance, I was just walking with him, giving him a tour and talking, and we wound up talking about it. Just to tell you what day this was, we wound up talking about the ketchup dripping down the wall instead of you remember that instead of really driving it home on the bridge. I brought up the bridge, but then somehow the conversation got into the news that had just come out that afternoon about Trump's ketchup dripping down the wall from throwing his French fries. Anyway, so I missed an opportunity. I'm really sorry about that, but I'm sure I can get another one. Hal, I was going to suggest that you talk to Tara Lingley to get some language about how to describe it.
Okay.
She's quite talented in that, and I'm sure she can help you with that. Tara with ODOT.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know her, so.
I'll send you. Okay, I'll email you contact.
Okay,
think-
thanks.
I
That'd be
think
great.
I think to emphasize what you're talking about, Arthur, too, is that, numerous communities along this route, this historic highway route, now have bike hubs, specifically bike hubs, and that the port has already put in lots of money on this bike ped trail all along the waterfront, which will connect to this bridge. So we have a lot of connectors already here that we've already put a lot of time and money into, just in anticipation that, you know, to get this bridge, we're gonna be able to make the final connections for all of that.
Mhm.
You know,
And
so that's why I think for him, we need a separate little sheet that's really focused on bike paths. And shows, hey, it's coming down the gorge. Here's everything we've done already down at the port. It's positioned to go across the bridge. And I think, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, because we asked this question earlier. On a very gross calculation, which is wrong, but you're probably talking $100 million of that bridge is associated with that lane. 12-foot lane.
Could we do that? What was it?
About 55 million.
55 million.
Yeah, just with the
Yeah.
bridge. That doesn't tie in, you know, trying to tie it into the ends and things like that. That's
Right.
just getting
Or
it across the bridge.
40% or the 40%
Right.
contingency or
So,
30% design. So it could be higher.
But I mean, if you had a one pager that just said bike hub, historic highway, here's the link at the port. I mean, you don't even have to have words on it. You can just have these stars of these spots and hand it to him. I mean, it would be really simple.
So I have a different idea, which I like to test with Hal. There is a very different lobbying, lobbying may be the wrong word, but a very different influence group for bike facilities. And I'm wondering if it makes more sense for us to engage people like, you know, Jonathan Mouse with Bike Portland, or people like that who I've talked to about this project before and know would be very supportive, who can start kind of pushing it from a different direction. How is that? Do you think that's a productive approach?
I think that'd be very productive. I don't think we need to sell him on it, but I think we need to help him see that this is, there's a broad constituency that's really interested in being able to ride all the way to Hood River, but also to cross the river. And they can't really do that on the Bridge of the Gods because they don't have bike ped access on the Bridge of the Gods either. So looking at getting across the river into White Salmon, then you're up to, I'm not exactly sure where the Klickitat rail trail ends. It's right there somewhere by Bingen. But, you know, linking into that trail, which gets you all the way up
Not quite.
into the heights. So, I mean, there are connections there, and I like that idea. And to help individuals like Bike Portland say, hey, you know, you could go all the way out to the gorge, but you don't have to stop in Hood River.
Just
We
some
need to work on
ideas.
that. Yeah, if you
Get
can
off the
sort of take
subject,
notes on
Robert.
that, I'm gonna be busy for the rest of the week, but I can hook you up with the right people next week.
okay.
You you already met AJ Salata, who's one of the key people in the Portland bike community. He's not from here. He's in Portland.
Okay.
He's one of the key people there who met with us. Was he on the phone call when we talked?
He was not.
Okay,
No,
so
it was just,
He, Meg and I had met to talk about it the weekend before, and then we shared with you, but he's
Yeah.
been central to this, the whole discussion.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Treaties, so the fishing treaty MOAs, this has been sent to FHWA. I did email them this morning to make sure that it got sent to their final reviewer. I have not heard back. The gentleman that we sent it to was on vacation. He came back this morning, so that should go out to their reviewer hopefully today or tomorrow. They think it will be 30 days or less for that review. Once that comes back, that will give us the boilerplate to then branch out to the other three tribes. And then we'll be able to talk to all four of them kind of concurrently from that standpoint. So that'll ramp up.
Who did
Pretty
you send it to
drastically.
first? Yeah, come on.
Well, it's drafted towards the Yakima, but it will ultimately go to all four
I
treaty
mean,
tribes.
but the first one was to the.
It has not went to Yakima yet. It went to FHWA. They
Yeah.
have to review it first. And then as soon as they're done reviewing it, then it'll go to Yakima and the other three tribes at the same time.
Okay.
I think about a year ago, we got some mitigation ideas from the Yakima.
Yes.
And so there's phase 1, phase 2. Phase one would be the section 106 MOA commitments, and then phase two would be the treaty fishing MOA commitments. But I just really want to compliment HNTB for getting both of those documents together, prepared with WSP's help. That's a big milestone to have those ready and teed up for federal highways review.
We'll bring the cake in when they.
And they're signed, yeah.
Enjoy that for 5 seconds. will you?
So we'll continue to move those forward. Tiffy loans, last meeting, there was a question about the payment on it. Carrie went back, did some research. Just to kind of clarify that, the interest accrues once the proceeds are drawn. And then the principal payments can be deferred up to 5 years after substantial completion. So just more of a clarification. And then JLA will be making regular updates on the communications plan. What we would like to do is we'll either put it in the packet and they'll work through, I think, primarily Marla and Arthur. And we will put it typically in the packet. If there's something that needs to be brought to the group or we think there needs to be a bigger discussion, then we'll add it as an agenda item. But we want to get ahead of this so that we're kind of like, hey, here next month, this is what we're going to be talking about. If you've got any comments, questions, whatever, let us know. And we'll do that hopefully, roughly a month in advance. And that way you can get a look at it and see what the topics are and we can iron those out before they go out and do whatever the next month's activities are.
Maybe this is a good time to talk about amendment 2 of your contract, which we looked at the scope last time. The estimate has gone to AREP, and they're doing the same thing as they did with the previous amendment. We've got, did we receive their comments back to us?
Still, I'm expecting that later on this afternoon.
Okay, when we reviewed their findings last Friday, there was about 3 areas that they suggested we go back and we agreed with them that we need some clarification from HNTB on it. They weren't, it's not major areas, but it's areas that need to go back and get clarified so they can finish their analysis.
Sure.
So that should be coming to you today, latest tomorrow.
Okay.
One thing on that,
Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking about us talking last time about the Second Amendment, about especially the communication stuff, is that, I think we as a group kind of like, oh, we're gonna have this meeting and we need all this PR, we need this, we need that. I think that we just need you guys, communications, to say, whoa.
We talk.
Okay, this is what your contract you have now says
Yes.
that we will do.
Jessica will be shaking her head.
Yeah, and it's like,
in agreement.
If
So.
you go past this point.
Yep.
You're over budget, because I think we get all excited and we want all this stuff done and that's great. But, sometimes we forget what our original contract was and it's included or it's not included. So just tell us to put our brakes on if we're
Jess, I don't know
getting overzealous.
if you or Alice want to.
So I was just gonna say thank you for bringing that up. We literally just talked about that an hour ago with Mike Shannon and how like, we want to be as helpful as we can, but we do have a finite scope and budget. And so if we need to kind of pivot and move in a different direction, that's fine, but we'll just have to talk about trade-offs. Like if we do this, then what should we make a lower priority? So yeah, as we start to provide monthly updates on what we're doing,
Sorry,
that will
we got-
also be.
Yeah,
We don't have the
I've been
best
checking on the internet here.
Oh, can you
You
all?
don't even have enough to stream one Netflix running here. This is terrible.
Yeah, I don't
internet.
understand why.
One thing is your router's sitting on the floor, which is the worst place for it to be. You want routers and repeaters to be as high as they can be. So we
We
need
need to touch it right now.
we need to do a little work. Yeah.
And I just have to generate them, she reached out to around on the back end.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So I'll summarize it since she's breaking up a little bit. We did talk about this an hour ago, and one of the things in us getting ahead of one we talked about was us getting ahead of it. So that we could come in and say, hey, here's what we're doing next month. If you want to make a change, we can, but let's talk about trade-offs and what we would do or not do. based on kind of how we want to move forward and what we're seeing success with versus what things we're not seeing success with, right? If people are not paying attention to our Twitter account at all, why do we want to continue to spend money doing that? And that's the type of things we want to be able to talk about. But we got to get ahead of those things to be able to have those conversations. And then I think as we get a history and a base of information together, it'll be a little easier to grab a document that we just did and make a slight modification than trying to start something from scratch or something like that. So I think some of that will get a lot more efficient as we get those bases and those documents drafted for the first time and, get JLA kind of
Yeah.
get their hands around
Well, I
it
just
and
wanted to,
their format. So
we get overzealous sometimes too, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to.
and they're more than willing to help, and they jump in and are like, yeah, we'll do it. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. That's so
Yeah.
we got to kind of on both sides take a look at that. So
Kevin, could you pull that shade
Yeah.
down a little bit? That sun is just
It's
glaring
blinding
off
you,
those
yeah.
windows over there. Thank you, thank you. I'm like, Thanks.
we were, and I don't know that this is going to be successful. We were going to try to do a 2 or 3 minute showing of the website. If you want to try real quick, Jess or Alice.
Yeah, can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
For now, yeah.
just this minute.
Okay, let's try it. I'm gonna try sharing, and if you can't hear my audio, just holler. Oh, hold on a second. There we go. Okay, everyone, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so just a quick little intro about the website. We've been building out a new website for the bridge replacement project in Squarespace. The idea is that eventually ownership of the bridge is going to move away from the port. So we need to have an independent place to host all of our information. We are pulling quite a lot of information from the current site and transferring it over here. So like all the documents, all the sort of archive stuff is going into this site. And the other thing I just want to say is that the site is, all websites are an iterative piece. So we can adapt, we can change, we can update. Right now, I think we just really want to get it in front of you just to see if we're in the right direction, if there's any like missing big buckets of information that we don't have on here. So after this meeting, we are going to send out a link with a password so you can review the site yourself, because we don't have a lot of time and it really is more of a personal experience to go through the site. But roughly speaking, we've broken up the information to basically 3 big categories, which is the new bridge, where we are now, and the current bridge. And then we're also got some additional pages for news, which is sort of taking the place of the current updates. And then an events calendar, which I can just show you here. Obviously, there's no scheduled events, but eventually we'll have that here. So we did get some notes last week about how we really wanted to project the new bridge. So you'll see we're trying to incorporate the renderings that we have as much as possible. We hope to develop some new graphics. And then here, just wanted to point out that we're using the current logo because we haven't approved a new logo, but just to display how the old logo isn't quite as flexible or practical. So that's one of the reasons why we want to create a little bit more of a up-to-date, durable logo that can really work in a digital space. So more to come. This is a placeholder, but just wanted to flag that for you. But just really quickly, when you're looking at this, just know that it is formatted for both desktop and mobile view. So feel free to look at it on your phone as well. That's we love it when you look at it on your phone, because that's actually, in most of our projects, I'd say 60 to 70% of our web traffic is from mobile devices. So it's really important that it looks good on a website and that your experience using it is good. So if you want to provide feedback, you don't have to, but if you do, you can provide feedback on what we're saying, but also how you're using it. If it feels confusing to navigate, that's all feedback that we can use. Without getting into too much of it, this is kind of what it looks like. We're using a lot of kind of established key messages that we've already developed. But we're always looking for new stuff. So also at the very bottom here, the footer, we've got this link. So we're going to build out kind of a static page for the bi-state working group or whatever your name is. And then that will be where we'll host kind of your commission related information. And so this is a very simple overview of the website. Websites usually get more complicated as a project progresses, but we're trying to keep it relatively streamlined for now. That's all I have to say.
Looking forward to taking a look at it.
Great.
So yeah, we're planning to, get this thing live as soon as we can. It's kind of live now, but like officially live and stuff, we'll get it up and running. So if we could link to your blog, that would
She
be,
already did.
she's got it on there. Okay.
I
Awesome.
was thinking, you're driving traffic to my website.
All right, perfect. So yeah, it's got some really good.
I didn't miss that.
Okay.
Is there?
Oh, and one last thing I just want to say about this website is that there will be some sort of continual kind of iterative content related to what stays on the port's website and what's going to go on this website. So I think the idea right now is that we're going to leave tolling and current bridge information like weight restrictions, all that's going to stay on the current port site, but we will link it. We want to make sure that we're sort of introducing the idea that they're two kind of separate things right now. So we haven't quite added that into this current website, but we will figure out kind of the best way to incorporate that, that sort of how those two sites work together.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting piece of just communicating to the public that the bridge is leaving the port. Right? And,
Mhm.
the port still exists, but has different function and the bridge is not part of it.
Yeah, but anyone
Well,
I've
I'm-
told that to for the first time, look at me like, really? They do, they just,
I would like to see on there, you had events and whatnot.
Mhm.
Calendar. All of these meetings, we've had 18 or 19 of them. We got to list every one of those guys. So
Yep.
they see that we're actually reaching out to the legislators, actively trying to attract money. We're not just sitting here waiting for it to.
Yeah, that's a great point, Commissioner Fox. So we'll connect with Mike Shannon and maybe Kevin to get all of those archived past meetings, and we'll populate that information so that it will become not only
And I think
information
we
about.
just gotta keep it up to date.
These are not
Yeah.
public meetings. So you,
Yep.
you want to be careful that you're not inviting people to attend these.
No, this is just
Kind of in the
after the
past,
fact.
it's
I
not the
think.
future ones. It's, hey, here's what's happened.
That's a good point.
Okay, cool.
I think, speaking about future meetings and transparency though, if our meetings, like the next one or two that we have scheduled.
Yep.
If we could put those up there so they can see, if you want to come and
Yeah.
listen to us talk about it,
Yep,
you're welcome. It's not a
for
secret
sure.
that. these- we're
Yeah.
having these-
I think-
These meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
these will
any
definitely
meetings
be
that
on
are
there.
the public is open to should absolutely be included. Or, we can even do things like we record the meeting on Zoom and we put that up afterwards so that if this isn't like an open meeting for the public, but it is still record. Anyways, there's lots of things that we can do to show a record of
Yeah.
what happened on this.
Yeah, you do have to be careful. This is not a public meeting under Oregon Public Meeting Law. We don't have a section for business from the audience and things like that. So
Yeah.
this is a work.
Working
This
group.
is a
Working
work.
group.
It's a working group,
Mhm.
right?
Once we.
I mean, we're
become-
legal, but it's not. But
Once we're the commission, once we are the
Right, that's
official
a-
commission, then that
Yeah.
will be different.
that's a different sort of authority. But again, I would have to check the specifics of the text to see see what kind of corporation it is and
Yeah.
whether that requires public meetings.
Well, I know
I hope
in
it
the new
does.
one it will, but today, does anybody have objection of
I
inviting
would
the
be really
public to it?
careful. Yes, I think we
Okay.
should look at that carefully.
Okay,
I don't have an objection.
Yeah, I don't know if we should or not. I don't know what all that means.
can
I
I
can
recommend
jump
it.
in if you all can hear me. I think that one thing is that if you do invite members of the public to these meetings, we'll want to change the format to be a webinar format. So that way you don't have a risk of Zoom bombing, because that is a real threat. As soon as you post the Zoom details online, like you're gonna get all kinds of silliness. And so we'll just, I think if, you know, if we want to invite members of the public, great, but we'll just want to change the structure. And if we don't need members of the public to provide input or to like weigh in on this conversation, I would suggest that we just post the video like we've been doing, the recordings, and then we can change the format once it's officially the commission.
Yeah, I would just be
Yeah,
cautious
that.
about saying it's a public meeting and we don't know what that means. And suddenly we have legal requirements, we haven't met them, and we're in violation of state law in 2 different
Yeah.
states.
Mhm.
I don't know what that means, so I definitely wouldn't do that without careful analysis.
Getting some counsel on it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's just hold off then, huh?
all right.
And one
Okay.
last point about the website, just in terms of when the new commission takes into effect in July, I think we'll need to probably spend time, probably April-ish, looking at our branding, you know, making sure that we are ready for that launch. And that also includes the website. So certainly, again, it's an iterative process, and we can always look at that again when we know more information about what the commission is going to look like, how it's going to operate, what the meetings are going to look like. All that is up for
Well, I would
edits in the
then
future.
recommend, Jennifer, that you assume that July 1st, we're going live with a new commission. So in your plan going forward that you're bringing to us, make sure that's part of that plan, that
Mhm.
that you feel comfortable July 1st, we're live. And if there's an impact on the budget, bring the impact to us so we can evaluate.
I think that what we'll want to do is just really understand what the needs are. You know, like I heard in a recent meeting that we want to get photos, for example, of the commission members at some point. And, you know, like, so we'll just need to like plan for what it is that we need on the website. And we can do that.
Good.
Keep going.
All right. Just one of the other things, the last meeting was developing some tracking dashboards that you can see kind of where we are against certain measures like the grants. So we're developing those. We'll have those, as soon as we have those up, we'll start sending those out and letting you see those. One of the ones is tracking against the 3 grants that we currently have. Those are in development. DC trip. So getting down to the informational items, we talked about the Oregon legislative meetings. We have 2 more of those. Well, actually, we did one with Representative Pham last Friday. We have one more with Representative Smith. That one was rescheduled. I think we're trying to get it for Wednesday of this week.
No, it's
Next
early
week.
December.
Oh,
No,
did
it was a mistake. It was Wednesday of next week.
Yeah, she had
Oh.
December
I'm
16th.
sorry, no,
but
it's Wednesday of this week.
It's
this
Wednesday.
yeah.
It's this Wednesday. Yeah,
This Wednesday.
It's the 16th,
so she had December
November
16th,
or December?
November.
November.
It's
Yeah.
a typo.
Okay, then we gotta,
2 days.
somebody needs to stand in for me because I'll be out of pocket. on
Yeah, I am also.
Um,
I'm in Eugene on the conference. So I already asked Bob if he could do it by email, but I haven't heard back.
Well, I can do it. I mean, I'll be around.
Okay.
Can you do my piece of it?
I do not have it down, I'll tell you. It's a lot different than what I've been doing.
Should we, say Jake Anderson's available? I think he's done that part before.
Yeah.
Done that part.
Either Jake or Bob. Hopefully one of them will be available. They're both
We'll
freelance here.
follow up with.
I'll
them.
reach out to Jake tomorrow. And see if he can do it, or I'll give him a call tonight.
Okay.
And it's November the 16th.
Yes, so she had December 16th and Wednesday, and I'm like, well, those don't add up,
Yeah,
so
she
I,
corrected it a couple
she
minutes later.
sent a
but
correction out, but
Okay.
it's,
Didn't see the
I
correction.
haven't seen it. Okay,
okay. Um, CFA, we talked about the grant status. We have not heard on those. Hal was expecting that we would hear on the rural and info or rural and mega, hopefully by the end of the month. So we'll keep an eye out, see if we hear about that. Tree MOAs, we talked about the NEPA, FEIS. We've talked about the section 106 went in with the Treaty Tribe MOA, so that's in review with FHWA. Those are really getting very close to final signature. And we're hoping, once we have those to a point of final signature, we're going to make a request again of FHWA to separate the Treaty Tribe mitigation agreement from the FEIS and the ROD so that we can get those finalized and get those actual signatures. So we'll continue to work on that. The RBMC, just some updates on what we're working on. The geotech drilling is in process. We need to go through ODOT to get a section 106 clearance through ODOT, which will take about 45 days, as well as ODOT being the path to us getting a tribal monitor for the cultural resource pieces of the geotechnical drilling. Once we know which tribes will do monitoring, then we will have to come back and look at some type of a contract with those tribes to reimburse them for their tribal monitor person to be here on site with us. So over the next 30 to 45 days, we'll get that worked out, and we'll have to come back to the group and to the port to figure out a contracting method to pay them for coming out and doing the monitoring. So just as that process evolves, we'll continue to keep you updated and work through the steps that it is. There's a number of permits that we're working on, and still planning on when in water work starting around May of next year, based on the permits that have to be obtained. I know. And there's a schedule, there's a schedule in your packet that shows kind of the activities that need to happen, the key activities, and the schedule of those activities are in your packet. It is a little bit fluid based on just the permitting process. Some of that is, best guess at what it'll take, and some of the agencies are a little quicker than others. So we're actively trying to move it along as quick as possible.
So this schedule says you're done in October of 23. How does that fit with the preliminary engineering work that Catherine's doing?
So they'll overlap. As they do the borings, they'll have the data. What the dates are in there is actually getting through the final drafts and the final preps of the reports and buttoning them all up. The data will really be available, very shortly after you do all the drillings. So we'll be able to incorporate and overlay those into the preliminary engineering. And remember, depending on the delivery method, we may not advance a lot of the engineering piece of it. The final designer and final contractor will do that. We will be more putting together the packages of what criteria are they going to follow, what's the box that group's going to work within, and making sure that they stay kind of within that box, and then allowing them to develop the plans and analyze the data as they see and want to use the data.
And I know Catherine's putting together a schedule
For that. Yes.
When do you expect or plan to put together an RFP package for whatever the next step's going to look like?
So we'll have to talk through that. If I'll use Progressive Design Build as an example. If we go Progressive Design Build, the ones that I've been associated with, that is somewhere around a 9-month process to do an SOQ. If we do a 2-phase, if we do a 1-phase, statement of qualifications, and I am working on cleaning up the document so that I do not have that. So Progressive can be done 2 ways. You can do a statement of qualifications where you kind of narrow down the teams, and then you do more of a RFP, which is request for proposals after that. There's also a phase where you just do the statement of qualifications and RFP in 1 step. That's the process that we would like to follow. It's just a quicker process. And that'll get us, 6 to 9 months to be able to get from the time you start till the end. Part of that is we're going to also have to bring on a legal team because these RFPs and contractual language within RFPs need a legal review and a legal, just author to a lot of it. So we do have some contacts. There's some national companies, that we can reach out to. Hawkins, I think, is one. That's who, WashDOT used when they did theirs. But we'll narrow that list down and bring a couple alternatives to that. But I would say we need to plan for a 6 to 9 month process from the time we kind of start the process till we're ready to select. Is somewhere in that range. And we need to think about who's going to be on the selection committee.
No, I understand all that. I think where I was going for is seeing where the preliminary engineering falls out. We see where the geotech falls out. Where's that next piece fit into there? And then
It's
how does it compare to what the original plan is?
so
That's to come yet. The other question I have on your schedule here, it shows that you've got geotech work July, August, September, and October. That is next fiscal year.
yes,
Your amendment that we signed, does that
Stops it.
carry, does that have enough funds to get us all the way through October?
with the extension of the contract, yes. So right now our contract only goes through the end of June.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
funded it for more than that.
right.
So if we extend the contract, then yes. If we don't, then
Yeah, so what he's talking about, if you remember, this first year, we did a 1-year work plan. The first one. The next one, we want to do a 3-year work plan, so we're not doing this every year like this. So right now, their authorized work, other than Amendment 1,
right.
is through 1st of July. So theoretically, we've got funds we've obligated to them that actually carries that work over a little bit.
Correct. And the reason I did that was I didn't want to try to figure out how to explain only doing 3/4 of the work, and funding 3/4 of the work. So it'll just carry through and be part of the discussion with the next extension. Correct.
Okay,
Project delivery method, we had a great turnout. And I can't remember if we've told everyone, we had over 80 people attend the event on the 7th. We are up to, and I forget the exact number, but it's over 16, 17 one-on-one meetings with different contractors and different engineering firms that were interested in pursuing the work. So that was a really good turnout. We got huge companies. I mean, Kiewitz, the Skanskas, the Atkinsons, the TY Lens. I mean, all, you name all the big players, they all showed up to the event, which was exciting because there was a lot of interest in this project. So I think it was good to kind of see that, we're right in that wheelhouse where I think a lot of companies, this is like their wheelhouse dollar wise and type of project wise that they would really like to go after. It's not the big $2 to $3 billion projects that have a ton of risk. It's kind of a bread and butter, project that's pretty straightforward that we could,
but
I
it's
think
big
we
enough
fit
to
in. So
attract
it's big
some of
enough to
the
attract
middle
them,
range.
but it's not a huge risk for them. They can do it without spreading the work between a bunch of different contractors. And, somebody could come in and prime and do 90 to 100% of the work themselves, which I think they also like. So, yeah, and it's got the flexibility of it's not really under each state. It's kind of an independent. So that's also a lot of flexibility that brings to the project too. So,
Would
So I'm gonna sit in on a lot of them.
will most of those contractors that were there bid on this only if it's a certain type, like the progressive design build, or if it's a blah, blah, blah? Or will some be very specific, like we won't do this unless it's a such and such, or?
some of them I'm sure will be like that. Some of what we're doing in these one-on-ones is listening to them about what do they see as the most attractive method, given kind of where we are and what we have and what the project looks like. So we'll hear a lot of that, and we'll have a summary of that when we do the December recommendation on delivery
Oh,
type.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, some of them might, there was one group that's a P3 group, right? So if it goes anything other than that, they're going to drop off. But most of the firms that were there could do any type of the contract. And I'm sure some are more geared towards one or the other, but
Or they
Um,
they could
the-
very well
do
form
any.
some joint ventures. and
Yep.
Come after.
But I think the majority, I would say, 85% of them could do any type that we delivered.
Okay.
I wouldn't see a big drop off in that.
Just a side note real quick. One of them that we're gonna talk to is Guy Atkinson. 60 years ago this month, my dad was working for Guy Atkinson. And my mom and my brother and I relocated to, at the time, West Pakistan to build Bangla Dam. At that time, it was the second largest earth-filled dam in the world. And Guy Atkinson was doing it.
Is the dam still there?
It is, in fact,
Well, that's a good recommendation.
and it's still generating power.
Good question, Art.
Earthen dams, get me nervous.
Now, the house we lived in, there's chickens, goats, pigs, and everything else walking through them, but they're still there.
So that's really it. The upcoming items, we're waiting on ODOT to provide us with their intergovernmental agreement for their technical services to help support reviews and other things. So that should be coming. Amendment 2, we talked about the project delivery method. The biggest thing right now, one of the biggest things right now is the CFA and progressing that forward, making sure each of the 6 entities are getting legal review and that we get that in front of everybody's councils and, get good feedback on how that's going to progress, because those 6 are the ones that are going to have to live with it. So.
Well, as you read through the CFA, the next thing that's gonna come at us is that we've got to start getting agreements between this new entity and the port for services the port's gonna provide to the new entity.
Yep.
And it's more than one. So
Great.
there's some work that's gonna have to go on there.
All right, that's all I had for the agenda. If there's any questions or thoughts?
I have one question. Most of these meetings now, we've been in deep in the weeds. Deep in the weeds, in my opinion. And you're doing a fantastic job getting us all this information, all these charts, and this is happening and that's happening, and condensing it and doing all that. And I'm gonna put this, and I like it, but I want to know if the amount of information you are having to give us is hindering you actually doing your work.
No,
No, okay. I just want to make sure,
No.
because sometimes when you only have X amount of people working for you and I want this and I want this and I want this, and I need all this information, you're like, I'm spending 3/4 of my time giving you information and I can't even get this stuff done. No, okay.
No.
I just want to double check because I
That-
love the weeds information, but I don't want to hinder your work.
Yeah, and I think we got a relationship between Mike and I. If we're going too deep, he's gonna tell him.
Okay,
But
good,
what
that's
we're
okay.
trying to do here is everything that we're asking for, he's gotta have himself to be able to manage the job. And
Yeah, I mean,
if he doesn't have it, then that's another series of concerns that I would have.
Yep.
But we're lockstep.
Okay,
So
all
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
I mean,
it-
I know
pretty-
you give us
pretty
all this information and then you're telling us you're doing this stuff, but I'm like, well, if you weren't here getting all this stuff, could you actually be doing things faster? No, you've got plenty of people. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I
Great.
mean, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of stuff. I'm here just telling you what they're doing.
Okay. all right, all right.
And making sure they understand what we want to do. But like Commissioner Fox said, this is all part of us driving the project and us, these are all things we need to do to move the project forward. So, it's not just giving you information to be giving you information. It's, these are the steps we do. These are the directions we got to do. And you'll see that next year. And the reason we're doing bi-monthly meetings is we plan to, I'm putting blinders on as far as not having funding. And we're gonna act as though this project is fully funded until we have to stop. So we're moving things forward, hoping that the funding's coming and that we'll figure that piece out, but we're not moving as though, we're waiting on funding anymore. So,
I think what Kate was offering is just to hit the mute on Mike's microphone if necessary. That's how I heard it.
You sit the closest, Kate, so you can do that anytime you feel like.
Well,
So-
I feel, Mike's the chair, we have a co-chair, but I feel that everyone up here, I've always felt that on any board I've been, whether I'm the mayor, I'm the councilman, whatever.
Right.
Everyone should be asking the questions they feel they need to get answered and giving, saying, well, is this working? Not just the
Absolutely.
chair, everyone
Absolutely.
is an equal up here to ask those questions. So I never hesitate to ask a question. Arthur knows that.
I,
Mayor, December will be your last meeting of the state working group.
Yeah,
And so
at this point, yeah.
do we know yet if the incoming mayor is going to?
I talked to him yesterday about this. We sat down for about an hour and chatted about it.
And I talked to him previously too about it, and I don't think he has as much time as he did when he was mayor previously, right now.
Yep.
He may at some point, but he doesn't right at this moment. I don't know what, that was the information I
Yeah,
got.
I can-
What did you get that saying?
Yeah, so
Okay.
he has a day job, so he will not be able to come to these meetings on Mondays, for example. And so I suggested that he might want to have a council member as a representative to these meetings, but that he as mayor is needed to help drive the project forward for the authority of the position, and he is very willing to do that. So there may be a double treatment where someone has to sit on the meetings because he's not available for them. He's physically not available at that time, but that he recognizes the importance of the project and will be helping us.
I know that Jessica Meta had been the alternate, and so
And
she's not.
she's
going
also not gonna be,
So do you have a sense on who that second person?
I really don't. I mean, the new counselors are, Doug Supina and, Grant Paulson. So Grant,
We'll get Grant on this.
Grant would probably be
This is
good on
right up
this.
his
Yeah.
alley.
I know Grant better than Doug.
I know both of them very well, and then both of them would be great, but Grant, this is up Grant's alley, I bet. We should have to twist.
Yeah, and he might have, he probably has some time to sit on a committee like this too, I would imagine, so.
We'll ask him.
Good, okay. Sounds good. Any other questions?
Catherine, do you have any?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay,
Can you confirm our next meeting? we have
December
is
12th,
The 12th, okay.
December 12th. Yeah, we did not do anything around the holidays, so.
okay, with that, can we adjourn?
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
And the only legislative meeting we have now scheduled is just this one coming up.
That's the
on
last
Wednesday.
one
Okay.
until they do their analysis of who ended up where.
Oh, I see. Okay.